water institution, a MEST, that's what we call it, was for entrepreneurship and training. Of course, the City Breakfast Show hosts this the last Monday of every month. Today we're talking about teachers in the tech era, training educators for digital success. It's a big panel indeed. So what's the context? Well, you can't deploy Edtech tools if those who teach don't know how to use them. I think that's the basic premise, right? So how do we equip teachers with the skills and tools to thrive in the digital era, to ensure that our kids and our learners get the best of what is on offer? So who do we have on the program? Anyele Pebi, founder, CEO, Pebi Cups, is a master, and she's also a Mastercard Foundation Edtech fellow. I didn't know this. You're a fellow.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you graduated or you're inside the fellowship?
I'm still in the fellowship.
Oh, you are in the fellowship. Okay. I know Pebi Cups, fantastic thing. I'll let you talk about it in a bit. Edward Akani
Program that offers thousands of books as well as in-person programming to engage children to love reading so they succeed in school and beyond.
How long have you been running it?
In the past 7 years.
How's it going?
It's going well.
Amazing.
It's going well. In fact, this year is going very well because as part of the Mastercard Foundation Edtech Fellowship, we're able to extend our reach from Accra to all the ends of the country, as far as Bolgatanga, Wan, Avrongo, Ho, Takwa, and so on and so forth. We've been all around the country getting children to read, mainly through training teachers to empower the children to read. And just 6 months between October and May this year, we were able to get the children to read and pass quizzes on 205,000 books. Whoa. So this is evidence that when you are able to empower the teachers and train them to use EdTech, they can actually get a lot of learning outcomes.
There are some readers in my house.
Yes, I know. Sometimes come see those readers.
Sometimes I worry that they are too obsessed with getting points, but that's a different conversation. But you're also a Mastercard Edtech fellow.
Yes.
Can you talk to me about that briefly?
Yeah, so the Mastercard Edtech fellowship is actually to engage the Edtech entrepreneurs in the country over a 3-year period. Started last year and ends in 2026.
Okay.
And just to empower the industry and to create that collaborative ecosystem that enables us to, as a country, to take advantage of all the resources available to improve learning outcomes. That's the ultimate goal. Okay. And being in this fellowship has been quite phenomenal because we've been able to collaborate across the sector. I actually know and the panelists here because of the Edtech fellowship and actually been able to then have synergy to get things done in the Edtech space.
Thank you.
Integration, basically, we are looking at how teachers acquire digital skills.
All right.
And how they are able to use them in the classroom.
Correct.
It's one thing having the skills, and there's another thing knowing how to use the skills.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, that is digital literacy and ICT.
And what is the Mastercard funded Leaders in Teaching project?
Okay, so that is a project for the secondary schools in Ghana, which started in last year, 2024.
All right.
2023. To support teachers in the secondary schools to acquire digital skills, to be able to also use it in the classroom to improve teaching and learning. Yeah, so that is the purpose of that.
And your job is the digital literacy and ICT integration coordinator for that project.
Yes.
Amazing.
So my responsibility is to ensure by the end of it, teachers have the digital skills and they are able to do without any difficulty.
Let's come to Richard Oseyenim. You are the Group CEO for Coral Reef Innovation Africa and then also co-founder of the National Digital Literacy Project.
Yes, sir.
Which one will you talk about first?
Let me talk about the National Digital Literacy Project. And it was a partnership with the Ministry of Education and GS. We deployed about 45,000 devices across the country. 350 primary schools and 350 junior high schools. So if you go to any district now, you'll find at least one smart lab that we deployed in a primary school or junior high school. So that was a project, I think we started in 2020, COVID hit, started actively rolling out around 2022. So every district now has that in place. We also train about 1,400 teachers. So the idea was the trainer model. You train 2 teachers in that school and then they cascade the training down to, I think we are due for an M&E with the Ministry of Education and GS to see what has happened since you deploy these tools. So that's on that particular project. An interesting one because it is a government project. we had to look at how we pivot to a private sector project as well. So we developed Coral Reef Innovation, and specifically to look at projects around not just private schools, but also public schools. If you're looking at public schools, I keep getting the stats. I'm not sure whether one time they say it's 15,000 public schools, another time 20,000. I'm lost the word, but let's say 15,000. We've done 700 schools, which is like a drop in the ocean.
This basic or secondary school?
Basic. So you're looking at primary schools and junior high schools. Now that's a drop in the ocean in a sea of 15,000 schools. Government can't afford to roll out all that. So from a Coral Reef perspective, we're partnering with CSR budgets of companies for impact education, high net worth individuals, Rotary, Lions Zone, churches, and
yet you standardize.
Absolutely.
What they do, so it cuts across the same policy.
So you go on there, you deploy a smart lab. The teacher gets a laptop with a learning management system, classroom management system. Students get tablets, laptops, whatever
they have to use
based on budgets, either a Promethean board or a projector, storage units. In the rural areas, you're dealing with issues around connectivity. So we have, just like I said, we have what we call a content access point, where you put all the content on there, irrespective of where you are. The devices can latch on and have access to content. So that's what we've been doing. We're in Ghana, we're in Nigeria, we're in South Africa and Eswatini, pursuing a Pan-African strategy.
Are the private sector responding?
Private schools, and that's also an interesting point about teachers in private school. My experience, yes, there's always an issue of budget. So we've launched something that is dealing with amortization of the cost over a period of time.
Correct.
We launched something called Lenarium, and it brings together a device with content, data, and insurance. And then it offers us that a subscription service or a pay-as-you-go for parents and schools. So a school can get a hub that is financed by APSA on an installment basis, and parents can acquire those devices for their. And really, what we our focus really is not on the devices. I mean, it's become a necessary evil. I was telling the wahala around bringing in devices and duties and forex exposure and so on. So we're like, look, how do we define devices that are fit for purpose?
Okay,
you know, people tend to be driven by brands. Can you? I'm not sure how the percentage you use of your phone, 10%, 20%, whatever. Can you actually deploy a device that deals with a specific, what you got, not Core i7 when you really need maybe a Core i3 and so on. So that's what we've been doing, and we're looking at building an ecosystem that brings together. I'm a MasterCard Edtech fellow as well. So yeah, thanks to MasterCard, we're looking at expanding our services across.
So you guys are all doing some fantastic work in the space. So it's a good basis to start. Now, let's start with William. Why is digital literacy critical for today's teacher? And how does it impact a student's learning outcome? So it's a 2-in-1 question.
Yeah. So first of all, I would like to say that digital literacy is critical in today's classroom. Okay. It's not just about knowing how to use computers. It's about making technology to make learning more engaging, inclusive, and effective. By this, we can have digitally literate teachers who would make on their own, create interactive lessons, are able to track student progress in their classroom, and are able to connect learners to global knowledge, which is key in the modern world of today. This directly improves the student outcomes. Learners become more engaged, motivated, and better prepared for the digital world in which we are today.
Charlie, that's a very serious answer. If this was a quiz, I would have said, you are right. I can't challenge because the way you take the thing past engaging, inclusive, you really research the answer, pal.
Oh.
So basically, you're saying that it makes teachers more effective, it makes learning more effective, it makes the student more effective. Everybody benefits.
Exactly. So, I mean, simply, we can just say that empowering teachers with digital skills to empower students for the future.
So, you know, I'm a bit old. I remember last year before the election, we got some guys come and train us on Excel. right? Because we needed to do some calculation. So here I was in my early 40s with some fresh university graduates. And when they are doing the training there, they will just do some equations and I'm confused. Then the screen will just change.
Do you know there's a global competition for Excel? What do you call it?
So I'm asking myself, is it possible to train somebody like me? So when the Susu and those guys were doing the calculation, sometimes I have to go back to the team and say, please, how did you get this thing? And I'm supposed to be a first class student.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't see top, but I persisted. So what I'm saying is that teachers, a lot of them, they've been trained, they have done their teaching and stuff. Now you say you want to train them. It's not easy. You train teachers to do your thing. Talk to me about training teachers, particularly in the Edtech tools, because some of them were born before computer. Some were born with computer.
Yes. You're right. I mean, learning anything new can be challenging, and it requires, first of all, having the mindsets that you want to learn, and that sometimes becomes the first significant challenge. Trying to get out of our comfort zone. So getting teachers out of their comfort zones to want to learn something new, and something new that they can actually apply that would improve their work, improve their learning outcomes. And so the paradigm shifts that it is necessary in the age we live in. We have so many resources we can actually use to accelerate learning outcomes. So that paradigm shift, getting the teachers to have that paradigm shift, is first of all, I think, one of the main roadblocks to actually getting EdTech implemented in schools. Of course, then we have access to devices, access to the resources, access to internet. Because when you have the devices, then you can use them. But if you don't have the devices or the internet, the infrastructure is not there for you to be able to actually adopt EdTech tools. And then having the suitable training, of course, is very important, because the training doesn't just have to be what would inform you. It should empower you to use it. So in our case, we're able to give to the teachers using distance education on Zoom, and then to practically follow up with them to make sure that they were using it and whenever they had a challenge. So communication between the trainer and ongoing support is very important. It can be a one-off training that then after 2 days you're supposed to go and you're on your own, go and figure it out. There has to be some follow-up. And there's some service where you're able to keep on, if you have any challenges, you can get the solutions to those challenges. That enabled us to get teachers who we never seen, who were thousands of kilometers away from us, to actually be able to use the service that we offer to get children to read. And the children read so much over the period.
So the experiment worked as a case study. Richard, talk to me on whether you can share any examples of successful teacher training programs, whether in Ghana or globally, that are preparing our educators for the tech era.
Okay, so a lot of our work has been, you really need to get the teacher right, because it's really the fulcrum, the access to the student. If you don't get the teacher right, and we come across all sorts of teachers that have fantastic mindsets and teachers that need a lot of work on their mindsets. And these are all teachers in classrooms. For the digital literacy project, we rolled out something called Ambassadors of Innovation, and it's a 3-month exercise purely on the Intel Skills for Innovation. We're partners of Intel in Ghana. So the Skills for Innovation, which prepares teachers with the digital skills required to deploy coding robotics in schools. Then the other one was Intel Master Coaches. What we're preparing students really for is to give them the tool sets and the skills to solve local problems using stuff like AI, coding, robotics, and so on. So it could be anything around health, finance. These are projects they design and go on to international competitions and so on. So Intel has been a strong partner in that for us here on the Ambassadors for Innovation program, Skills for Innovation, and the Master Coach program. You've got a program for HP as well. And over a period of 143 days, they send you emails on a constant basis.
Wow.
Gradually, what they're trying to build fluency, digital fluency, AI fluency with a teacher. Cambridge Education also have a project for teachers that we're able to deploy as well. So my biggest challenge with all these things that come from Silicon Valley and all those places. So how do you indigenize that for our local African context? And I think there's a lot of work that we need to do as EdTech companies and in the space to make sure that what is a parallelogram to somebody in Pumpurubu, for instance, if you're deploying an LLM, GPUs and all those things, what does that mean? So how do we indigenize that? And for content especially, how do we make the content in our local languages? And so I know there's a group in Legon doing some work on that. So there are various programs. The only gap is indigenizing it and localizing it for our context.
Let me end this first segment with Edward. So back to the problem, right? How does limited access to digital tools and infrastructure affect the teacher's ability to integrate technology in education? So that's question one. And number two, any initiatives that are addressing this?
Okay. So Bernard, you mentioned a few minutes ago about bringing in some people to do like an Excel training for the team. Yeah. Wow. And you'd all agree with me that teaching, just like any other profession, requires continuous professional development, which industry calls CPDs. And these CPDs are facilitated by digital tools and platforms. And so the limited access of digital tools creates a gap in the upskilling and professional development of teachers. The absence of these tools make it difficult for teachers to improve themselves. And then secondly, there's also the gap where you have teachers having challenges demonstrating or experimenting things. There are times that when you're teaching, you need to show the students some things like practical use cases of what you're teaching. And then the absence of these tools creates gaps in there. You're not able to demonstrate to industry standards. And then finally, you can talk of limited access to content. With the right digital tools and infrastructure, teachers are able to research, undertake more innovation into content that brings innovation as well as creates exposure for these students. In terms of initiatives that are addressing this, I remember in 2021 there was an initiative, one teacher, one laptop. I don't know if that initiative is still running, but I think that would have been a very interesting initiative to address this.
Because that's the question. The question we don't have the answer for.
Yeah. So interestingly, I mean, the initiative was to have government cater for 70% of the cost of laptops for teachers, and then the teachers can take care of the 30% through their fund. So that is an initiative that would have been very exciting. And then it's one that I came across, the Ghana Accountability for Learning Outcomes project. And this was a project that was co-funded by the World Bank and then DFID, that's Department for International Development. And basically there was an EdTech component there where they were teaching health, having training sessions for teachers on the ICT use cases, as well as an LMS. And so these are initiatives that I think would go a long way to help teachers in the digital schools, digital tools. And then finally, even programs like this to drive meaningful conversations, to drive conversations that would basically like give teachers the exposure that they need to initiate policies and stuff like that.
In your experience, are teachers demanding for this type of training? So is it a demand-led thing, or are we the ones pushing it on them? Because what I'm asking is because when I read the news, I hear teachers always want to go for courses. They want to go and do masters or something so they can be promoted, and they write promotion exams. But I don't know if they want I don't know what they are learning. Whether these are because I think these are the things they should be learning. But I don't know if you're able to even track what teachers are interested in developing themselves in. Are you able to?
I think it's I would say that it should be something that both teachers and then even administrators should be interested in. It shouldn't be left for teachers alone. And if you're a teacher and you really care about impacting the lives of the students, you'll be interested in some of these things. How can you help someone with the skill sets that they need, that in the next few years they could become a president, they could become someone great, and then you look back and see that your impact has led to this person to become what he or she is. So I would say that just like the teachers, the administrators also should invest in some of these things. It shouldn't be left to teachers alone. Teachers should have the mindsets, number one, they should be willing to learn, but administrators should also invest in some of these tools to make sure that the teachers get the skills, the upscaling that they need to do.
Wonderful. This is Edtech Monday. We're live on 97.3 City FM, is brought to us by the MasterCard Foundation, of course put together by MEST, Nels Water Entrepreneurial School for Technology. In studio, Anyele Pebi, founder and CEO of Pebi Caps. She's also a MasterCard EdTech Fellow. Edward Akani is the partnership lead for ALX Ghana, an expert in EdTech and youth empowerment. William Pius Akakpo is in a nice big suit. He's a digital literacy and ICT integration coordinator for MasterCard funded leaders in teaching project. And Richard Osenim is the co-founder of the National Digital Literacy Project and the group CEO for Coral Reef Innovation Africa, doing some fantastic things in schools. All right, so let's come to my next round of questions. And for that, I'm going to start with William. How are EdTech innovations creating more engaging and effective learning experiences for teachers, William?
Yeah, so thanks to MasterCard Foundation again, I would take examples from the Edtech Fellowship Program.
Good.
We have a number of startup companies. I had the opportunity to support a number of the EdTech companies first cohort. So let's take, for instance, DEXT Technologies. DEXT Technologies is into
DEXT, D-E-X-T.
Yeah.
Technologies.
Good. Into science kits. And so this is doing wonders in the classroom.
Yep.
Now, science is no more fiction. It is now practice in the classroom.
Yes.
And so that is one of the innovations we would say has come to support teachers and learners, to support teachers to improve learning outcomes for learners. Again, we have Pebby Caps supporting reading, or I would say improving reading within the educational system. Again, we have Deaf Can Talk, which is for an inclusive, supporting us on the inclusivity when it comes to people with disabilities in the classroom. You have a case where you have a deaf child in a classroom learning with other students who can read, but here the deaf learner would get access to a mobile app that could translate audio into text where the deaf person can read and understand what exactly is happening in the classroom. And so these are some of the innovations that teachers they have access to, and they can avail themselves to these kind of technologies to, again, be able to improve learning outcome. More importantly, EdTech ensures professional development, not just through workshops, but it brings mentorship, collaboration, and real-time feedback right to teachers' fingertips. Thank you.
Let's talk about strategies we can implement to scale digital training programs for teachers across both urban and rural areas. So you've mentioned how we need to localize some of the global things, but now we're focused on what is working on a small scale that we can scale up. So I'm sort of changing your train of thought now.
Yeah. The very first, everybody's talked about mindsets. I think it's fundamental in this conversation. Did you know that teachers and the public schools system are given 1,200 Ghana cedis, I think, a year for CPD?
Continuous professional development.
Yep. Where does it go to? That's something that can be looked at in terms of infrastructure. How do you build clusters? So, for instance, we go 700 schools that have devices. How do you utilize? Because the kids are in school from 8 to
now I think 3.
Yeah. So, how do you design a program that teachers can go use those devices after 3 to 5? In several. It's 24-hour economy now. How can you extend engagement in there? So infrastructure is key. In rural areas, the issues with offline access. So now, I've just seen a pilot where you can transform any device into an AI-enabled device just by plugging in a dongle. Okay, these are some of the techniques that are being deployed now. And also, when you talk about how you deploy the content, you can deploy content on WhatsApp. Full modules of learning and training can be deployed on. I think we need to move away from the conventional ways of deploying content using these clusters, using offline angles, and also devices that can take modules that have been defined for them in WhatsApp, for instance. Yeah. And the CPD, I mean, this has to be driven from a policy perspective. It cannot just be demand led. So you've got 350,000 teachers that are in the system. Then you've got another set in training colleges. I think it's important for us to start these conversations in training colleges. So if you're going to look at their curriculum now, if automation is getting rid of jobs, appending jobs, and so on, innovation is bringing all these types of opportunities. Are you training your students with the right sort of skills that prepares them for the future of work? Go and look at the curriculum now. I mean, look at the World Economic Forum, talking about creativity, problem solving, innovation, and all these things, and compare it to our curriculum and see whether it's fit for purpose to prepare students for the future of work. And infrastructure is key, mindset is key, and tuning the CPD points. I mean, for teachers, if it's CPD points and it's there's some sort of value that can be derived from it, I think they will champion this course.
If you're a teacher listening to us, let's hear from you. Send us a WhatsApp 05499869996. How interested are you in some of these opportunities to learn more within the Edtech space? Your CPD, as you people call it, your continuous professional development. How are you channeling it to add value to yourself so it can be more useful to your students? If you have any questions on any of the programs we're discussing, please send me a WhatsApp. I'll be happy to read them to my guests. Let me come back to Edward. So how can partnerships between Edtech organizations, schools, and government support sustainable teacher training in technology?
All right. I'll start with the Edtech organizations like ELX. We are very much data and AI oriented organization. I mean, when you pick up your phone wherever you go these days, you hear about AI and all of that. So I think one of the key things that teachers should be mindful of, as well as administrators, I keep mentioning administrators because I mean they are the people that run the schools. I think it's very important for them to look at avenues where AI and data can be leveraged to help teachers. And ELX has a series of courses or programs that we can partner with schools to help their teachers adopt some of these strategies. For example, when you pick ChatGPT, a lot of people just go in there, put in something, and then they get information. But there's a lot you can actually use with ChatGPT. A lot of things that as a teacher you can leverage apart from ChatGPT. A lot of AI and digital tools. I think it's essential that teachers have training on these things just to help with their research and innovation as well. And then I think there's a company called Opportunity International EduFinance. Is an NGO based in the US, and I think they're doing a lot of work in Africa with some schools. They provide some kind of financial support and technical assistance for schools to help them with teacher programs, infrastructure, and all of that. So teachers and then administrators should be able to take advantage of some of these opportunities, partnering with NGOs to get some grants for infrastructure, to run some programs that would enhance the teachers' capabilities as well. And finally, I think policy, government should be able to engage EdTech stakeholders as well as the schools and teachers to understand what's very important. And initiatives like the One Teacher, One Laptop is one thing that I think will be interesting to delve into, as well as the Ghana Accountability for Learning Outcomes project should also be looked into as well.
That's the Gallup project.
The Gallup project.
How important is continuous professional development for teachers in staying updated with EdTech advancements? I think we've sort of hinted, but let me still take your comment.
So I think various people have commented on this already. It's absolutely essential. It's not a one-off thing. Continuous professional development is what would keep just up to date, especially with tech. Tech is evolving continuously, and even for those in the tech industry, we have to continuously be updating ourselves on the new things that are being introduced and how relevant it is in our space. So definitely, teachers do need that so that they can actually make sure that they maximize the time they have, they maximize the resources they have, and have the optimal output when it comes to learning outcomes.
We're in an era of inclusion, so whatever you're doing now, people need to discuss this. So, William, how can EdTech leaders ensure that their teacher training programs are inclusive and address the needs of diverse educators?
So like I cited earlier on, EdTech companies needs to be diverse right from the onset in designing their EdTech products.
All right.
Once that is done, 50% of the problem is solved. So again, we also need to consider the platform. The platform must be mobile friendly, low data accessibility, whereby, because if you take those in the rural areas, they may not have the necessary infrastructures in terms of data and all that. So all these things needs to be considered. Multilingual applications. As part of the Edtech Fellows, we have Aya Prep, who is, using Ghanaian language to teach in mathematics.
Wow.
Which would help people in the rural communities who may not really understand English fluently can use some of these applications to be able to improve their learning outcome. So we need more flexible format, online, offline, blended teaching and learning. We can also have self-paced learning approaches, and all that combined, we need to be more integrative in the kind of approaches and platforms we use in designing our programs.
We'll take some policy prescriptions shortly, but let me hear from the public. A couple of people have been interviewed on this already. Here's our Vox Pop segment.
In my experience, most schools or most teachers who find themselves in some advancements with regards to teachers' readiness for the digital classroom. The digital competencies that teachers need most are divided into two parts. We have the hard. In my experience, most schools or most teachers who find themselves in the rural areas do not have these digital enablers, hence they do not have the capabilities to go about these digital tools. With the schools located in the urban areas, we realize that teachers are able to manipulate or maneuver their way. For teachers to be effective and proficient in Edtech, they should be trained in tools such as Google Workspace, Microsoft 365, and how to use classroom management systems. The emergence of technology has made teaching and learning easy. Teachers are able to meet students at their various points of needs, and students are able to learn from anywhere at all, so far as they have access to an Edtech device. The major challenges faced by teachers in Edtech are: 1. Lack of access to electricity, lack of access to internet or stable internet connectivity, and 3. Lack of access to Edtech tools or devices. In order for teachers to thrive in this Edtech era, training is very essential. In my opinion, there has been some advancements with regards to teachers' readiness for the digital classroom. The digital competencies that teachers need most are divided into two parts. We have the hardware and then we have the software. Under the hardware, teachers must be able to operate some of our digital tools like computers, scanners, voice production tools. And under the software, we have skills such as data processing, cloud computing, knowing how to do basic graphics designing, knowing how to use data entry processing software such as Microsoft to enhance efficient and effective teaching and learning in the classroom. Technology affects teaching and learning in many ways. For the teacher, teaching becomes very simple. Converting concepts become also exciting, and for the learner, learning becomes more exciting and engaging. Some of the major challenges teachers face with regards to using Edtech tools include access to electricity and access to stable internet connectivity. Teachers can thrive in this Edtech era if given access to industry exposure, teacher exchange programs, and training, and more training.
Government reps to facilitate critical conversations on the use of technology for teaching and learning. An initiative of the MasterCard Foundation. This is under the Regional Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning. It's part of the foundation's strategy to find solutions to Africa's youth employment by closing the gap in access to quality education and advancing the integration of tech in education policies and practices across Africa. My guests are Anyele Pebi, founder and CEO of Pebi Caps, MasterCard Foundation Edtech Fellow. Edward Akani is a partnership lead for ALX Ghana, an expert in Edtech and youth empowerment. Pius William Akakbu, digital literacy and ICT integration coordinator for MasterCard Founded Leaders in Teaching Project. And last but not least, Richard Osei, named Group CEO, Coral Reef Innovation and co-founder of the National Digital Literacy Project. I'm going to give each of you a minute or two to give me policy recommendations or your big take home. But let me just read 2 comments before we do that. Bernard, do they have training programs for teachers in remote areas? If yes, how do we access them? Is there an ongoing program for teachers in ICT? This is somebody from Sakumono. Who's going to answer this one?
I'll take this one.
Go ahead.
So I think ALX has an amazing platform for not just teachers, but I mean everybody can access our platform. And we have what we call the AI in Career Essentials, which I think will be very interesting for teachers, where they learn how to leverage on data and AI in teaching, and then improving their teaching abilities and capabilities as well. So just log into the ALX platform, alxafrica.com, and then you should see the courses.
Will this work for rural people too?
I mean, as long as you have internet, you should be able to do that. The internet is the infrastructure bit that I think government can come in and support with. But
are you sure everybody has internet? Are these trainings virtual?
Yeah, they are virtual. Yeah, online. Yeah,
I see. The way the person is asking the question, the person says remote areas. Do you know what the remote area is?
Quite friend in Branza, deep farm somewhere.
Would you have something for them?
I mean, you would have to access it via, you either go to a center and download it, or if you can get 2G, 3G type kind of access, then you can deploy some content to you. But what I in terms of, is it my turn to talk about policy?
No, okay. I thought you were responding to the question.
Yeah, okay. So if you go on our platform as well, coralreefgh.com, you can access our Lenarium platform. It's actually in beta test mode, but you can play around with some of the stuff that we have there.
Hi, Ben. Mr. Kakwe taught me some courses in my undergraduate education. He's a solid guy, Edward in Tesano, so that's a good one. Let's take closing comments, recommendations, starting with Richard.
Okay. I think if you look at the structure of our public sector education, a lot of the schools tend to form in the bottom of the pyramid. They will either be in rural areas or hard to reach areas and so on. So how do you deal with access, equity, and inclusion in those spaces? And I think that's where policy makers, government, and stakeholders need to think about. The other thing is infrastructure. We've talked about, there's actually a trust deficit with teachers when it comes to these laptop for teachers and because the kind of devices sometimes they get is not fit for purpose. So how do you reinstall the trust in teachers with fit for purpose devices that can be amortized over a period of time? And then finally, when you look at, just last night reflecting on this topic, I chanced on something that's the profile of an AI-ready graduate must be a learner, a researcher, a synthesizer, an ideator, a connector, and a storyteller.
Hey, can you repeat that? The profile of an AI-ready graduate must be what?
A learner, a researcher, a synthesizer, an ideator, a connector, and a storyteller. So you are preparing students to go into an industry 4.0 paradigm. You, the teacher, are you fit for purpose with these sorts of skills that you need to deploy? And how best can we support teachers and build their capacity, fill all those gaps that they are encountering to be relevant to the student in this new paradigm?
I love it. Learner, researcher, synthesizer, ideator, connector, storyteller. If this is what the student should be, then what the teacher has to be more. Right? Any policy recommendations, Angele, as we wrap up?
Yeah, so I know while we talk about challenges in terms of infrastructure and access to internet, we still do have quite a our mobile penetration rates, our internet penetration rates is improving. And so the question is, what are we doing where we have internet? And where internet exists, where we have devices, what are we doing with those? And so I think that we need to look at an industry, education industry, on more collaboration within the industry. What governments can do, what private sector can do, what the foundations can do. Because sometimes you actually end up having the internet available, and you have some company, CSR has built a lab and there's no content. And so there's not enough of a free flow of information on where the needs are and where the gaps are. And so things like the Mastercard Foundation Edtech Fellowship, which brings together Edtech entrepreneurs, as well as engages the government as well, helps to actually make sure that we are able to use what we do have to experience synergy within the sector. So I'm looking forward to seeing more collaboration across corporate institutions, edtech entrepreneurs, and policymakers to make sure that with what we have, we can actually build on that. And we have companies doing training programs for teachers. We have companies who are deploying hardware. We have the internet available. But can these all come together? And we need that catalyst to make it happen.
Wonderful. Let me come to William. What are your closing thoughts? Any policy recommendations?
Yeah, so I'm sure my colleagues have already mentioned a lot of the key issues in terms of policy. But again, for me, one key area is we still need to build the foundations properly. Because we have situations whereby sometimes if you hear AI, it's as if AI, just jumped out of the blue like yesterday or 2023. But artificial intelligence started all the way, 1956. But we are now talking about artificial intelligence. So how many years behind are we? Talk about robotics. Robotics started in in the 20th century, but its first was originated in 1954. But again, today we talk about robotics as if it's now coming up about 2020. So we need to build a foundation such that we can keep building on it. So I would suggest, let us understand as a country what we are really doing into the edtech space. If you take India and you meet them, in any part of this world, they are doing technology or law. But if you meet our people, they are, interested in health. How do you call it?
What? Medicine?
No, not medicine. Health work.
Nurses.
Those exactly. Which you ask yourself, when are we going to get people to that level? Again, training is very, very important. Teachers are receiving CPD money or allowances. Are those running CPD programs for them interested in just collecting those monies from them because they know teachers have the money, or the trainings are being designed such that it's fit for purpose?
All right.
Thank you.
Let me end where I started. Edward.
Yeah, I think for me it would be the one teacher, one laptop initiative. I don't know where it stands now, but I think it would be very interesting for government to pick that conversation up. Also engage the different stakeholders to understand different models for financing as well, because that's like a very key area. And then also looking at how AI and then data can be infused into teaching, because at the end of the day, without data, you cannot make the impact that you really want to make. So those are the two things for me.
And those are the nuggets from our panel members for today's edition of Edtech Monday on teachers in the tech era. Now, just if someone is to get in touch with you, is there any number? I just want to make it easy. Pebicaps, you have a website. How can book in touch with you?
Yes, pebicaps.com. You can reach out to us there. Or
it's PERBICUBS.
Yes.
Pebicaps.com.
Yes, or on our social media handles, Pebicaps, or on the phone number 055-2477-243. 055-2477-243.
All right, what about Richard?
So you can go to our website, coralreefgh.com. Coralreefgh.com. The same for our handles, Facebook, Instagram, and the number you can reach 0506-311-053.
Okay.
0506-311-053.
William, how can people get in touch with you?
Through my number 0249 499 338.
All right.
Or through Cure Technologies.
Through what?
Cure Technologies.
Cure Technologies.
Yes.
CURE.
Yes.
Technologies.
Yeah.
All right. Are you on social media?
Yes.
Cure Technologies. Wonderful. And Edward?
So on social media, ALX Ghana, LinkedIn, Facebook, everywhere, you can just get to ALX Ghana and send a message, or you can reach me via my number 055-5585-985, and email as well, eakani@alxafrica.com.
All right, interesting conversation on how our teachers will become EdTech ready. This will continue online. Don't forget, this program is brought to you by the MasterCard Foundation, Regional Center for Innovation or Innovative Learning and Teaching, as part of their strategy to find Africa's youth employment gap close significantly. MEST was also part of this. They put this together, Meltwater team, and of course, the City Breakfast Show. Stay with us.
Unleashing the power of relevance.